What you're going to be watching right now, this is a webinar that I filmed back in May. And so far, it has given so much value to so many people. So I thought to make it available here publicly, also for you, my loves, my subscribers on Elina's Alchemy, as an introduction to a course that I've created, Conscious Uncording. Click the link that you will find in the description and in the comments, and you can get for the next 3 days only by using the code UNCORD57, you can get the course 41% off. Okay? I want you to have this. I want you to have fun with this. I love you all. I'm gonna let you enjoy the webinar.
Hello everybody, welcome. This is Elina. I'm an energy healer. I'm an intuitive and a channel. And I welcome you to this webinar today, which comes on the back of a small course that I created where I teach how to locate, identify, and clear energetic interference from your energy field. Which in my nearly 10 years of day-to-day experience as an energy worker, I have to say I have come to find that energy leakage and intrusive energies in the aura is the number one issue everyone is dealing with, especially highly sensitive people, empaths, light workers. No matter how spiritually protected we are, we can often overlook a huge part of energetic hygiene that we simply don't get taught about, like how energetic intrusion can be basically everywhere in our daily interactions, and how we could be giving permission for our personal trauma body, our pain body, to act as a mechanism for siphoning of our energy. Now, we often have no idea that this is what is causing illness, like mental, emotional, psychological challenges. And so I wanted to create a space with this webinar where we could meet and we could go deeper on the topic of energetic sovereignty and to share how you can be doing energy clearing on that front, even if you have zero experience in intuitive work. Even if you say, Elina, I'm not psychic, I don't know much, I don't see energy like you do. In fact, I created this course with my partner in mind because he is a person that, he could feel that something was off with his energy for the longest time. He's very perceptive, but he's also not a medium like myself. He's very logically oriented, he's very grounded and very down to earth. And he needed specific, practically applicable protocols to follow to help him identify energy leaks from his aura and clear them himself once and for all. This is great amount of personal power being given back to a person who now doesn't need an energy healer outside of themselves. And my goal also here today is to encourage you to become the healer for yourself. So if this speaks to you, you can find all of the information about my course below this video. This is a self-paced course and it's online. You get access to it for life, so you can get it now and, start diving into it when you feel the timing is right for you. But now here in this free webinar, I want to give you already a bunch of valuable information that you can start with. Even if we never meet again, I want you to know what to do in those cases, how to think about those topics, and how to step back into your own power. If you feel, let's say, your energy depleted, your manifestations don't work, if you feel confused with your life, with your purpose, I don't know, you may be battling illness, if you don't feel like yourself, especially if you went through challenging experiences in childhood or even recently. So this is a pre-recorded video you're watching. I'm filming it as we speak right now, obviously. But below this video, you can drop any questions that come up for you around anything you hear me talk about today, like anything that sparks your curiosity. Please know there are no stupid questions. I will be collecting all of those questions and I will be doing a video Q&A, which I will send to you on your email. Okay? So if everybody is ready, relax, have something to drink, and let's dive in. So today we will be exploring energetic sovereignty from the perspective of locating and removing and clearing from our energy field various energetic or etheric cords and other intrusions using cord cutting correctly, as this is actually a method that, when done properly and in combination with somatic release, it becomes a powerful ally in our toolkit to help us reclaim and maintain optimal energetic and spiritual sovereignty on the daily, to bring back balance and health on all areas of our life, and even supercharge our access to life force energy that was naturally intended for us to fuel it into our lives, into our creations, into our manifestation process. Now, I feel that we have come here in a world with, sure, a lot of contrast in it, but also a lot of opportunity to live out a unique purpose. Now, what is that purpose? I don't know 100%, but I liked how I heard it at some point, that our purpose here is to joyfully maximize our creative capacity in co-creation with the divine, and in the process, to sign everything we do with the signature of excellence. This resonates for me. So when our energy is siphoned away from us one way or another, we cannot access our natural medicine, our excellence that we came here to contribute to this world. Like, our bandwidth is consumed with other insignificant things. And so clearing our personal field from etheric cords and parasitic connections that seek to only take energy from us, we are rehabilitating our personal energy. And we're reclaiming our ability to be a powerful force for ourselves and in our role within the collective. Now, some parts of this discussion, I'm aware, they're likely to challenge some beliefs around spiritual authority or protection. We will be touching on some a little bit uncomfortable realities of the spiritual path, and I know not everybody's ready for this, but this is not from a space of fear, but of education, aiming to empower. So please know, the power is in the uncovering of things that might be hard to acknowledge at first, but when we gain clarity as to what it is we're dealing with, then we also know what to do about these things. So I want to invite you to listen with an open heart, and please keep only what resonates and discard the rest. I'm saying this because cord cutting, for example, is a very popular technique, but I have made the experience through the years that it is more often used wrong or incomplete, or people don't understand exactly what they're cutting cords with and how that something found its way in, like where we may have weak or blind spots. And unless we are actively doing healing work daily, professionally, like to have an actual reason to be exposed to all of the different possible variants and different dynamics, then we're not supposed to just know how to do things on that field, right? So that results to like cords so often not being effectively cleared. And when that happens, or when there are blind spots, and we will share today like how we can uncover and clear the blind spots as well, but when that happens, cords can become way more than just an inconvenience of like, oh, my energy is depleted, or I feel tired, or nothing goes my way, or I still can't get over my ex, or I can't seem to manifest that job promotion. It can become something bigger. It can really become something that ends up even hijacking our organic timeline. And starting from us individually, then it also reverberates collectively. In fact, the way I see it, so much of what we see happening in our world currently is a result of lots and lots of individuals not having full authority over their energy field and not being aware of it. And that's not to make anyone wrong or imply that they're unworthy or undeveloped or anything negative, but ultimately you see how collective heartache or inability to find closure and move on, or to have our own energy available to us for the creation of our own personal higher timelines, you see how all that ends up manifesting in various ways also within the collective at a larger scale. So for spiritual seekers who are currently interested in healing their energy and everything that this is linking into, from our physical body, our finances, our love life, sense of purpose, this is an important topic. And also mental health issues like depression and anxiety are very much linking into the negative effects of auric intrusions, like etheric cording and energy siphoning. And I have in fact treated a number of individuals who even needed medication to function at one point in their lives. And they eventually didn't need that anymore after they started using these techniques that we're going to be talking about here today. So generally imagine every area of or aspect like in your life where energy was supposed to be flowing unhindered, but it's not. And there is even maybe intense emotional reactions related to that. This is exactly where there may be etheric cording present for you in your life, siphoning energy away from you, either to another person or to memories, places, past trauma, past versions of ourselves, even organizations, governments, celebrities, cultural moments even, believe it or not, past lifetimes, or fueling parallel timelines and whatnot. So we are going to discuss how to lovingly yet effectively sever such connections and remove intrusive energies such as hooks, all that stuff from our field, so that our energy stays available to us and our plans about how we want to live our life. So just to establish a basic foundation here, let's look into what energy cords are. So energy cords are invisible energetic connections that form between people, places, or experiences. And they act like channels through which energy, emotions, and thoughts can flow consciously or unconsciously. You could be here, but feeling someone else's emotional or mental state in a manner that is not healthy and hijacks your own experience because you're here and suddenly you're feeling somebody else's stuff. We often create cords in relationships. It's not inherently a bad thing, especially through intimacy and emotional bonds. But some cords, yes, they can be loving and supportive, and some can be draining and entangling, and depending on the dynamic. Positive cords, they form with, authentic connection or love and respect and soul resonance, and they uplift both people and they are soul to soul. And sometimes, we don't need to really cut them. We just have to cleanse them every now and then or honor them with healthy boundaries. But negative or draining cords, those are the ones where they come from codependency and trauma and fear, guilt, manipulation. And in these cases, the cord becomes a channel for energy siphoning and emotional hooks or unconscious attachment loops. And usually it is the one who achieves a more elevated frequency. They do the work, as we say, that is feeding the one who vibrates lower, thus making the elevated person feel extremely depleted, while the other person now gets a little elevated. And it's like with batteries. The empty one gets charged by the fully loaded battery, but in the end, that makes two non-full batteries. So you understand that long term, such an enmeshment is not healthy for anyone. Now, people who are clairvoyant, which means they can see psychic energy, like myself, we can actually see cords in the auric field of a person. But most people may just be able to feel cords, and that's also great. Our nervous systems alert us about everything. But in today's world, where most people do not perceive psychic energy, we dismiss signals from our nervous system, like, oh, it's just an emotion, or, oh, I don't know why I would be feeling this way. And I want to encourage you to start trusting in what you feel. If you feel, I don't know, a connection with a person has started to feel off, you're going separate ways, don't just walk away. Check also for any cording that may be pulling from you. Your nervous system will alert you. And the work here, or part of the work, is to start becoming also more attuned to our own energy field. So we start discerning what is ours and what isn't and needs to be cleared. Personally, as a medium, I usually just have to close my eyes to see cords in the energy field of my client, or I will feel the cords, or I will just know intuitively as I move my hands over my client's aura. I will be guided as to where to stop. I usually also feel like an energy vortex that feels like a pool. Usually, because this is what negative cords do. They pull energy, they siphon energy. And when it comes to seeing cords on ourselves, I have found we need to be ready to see them. In other words, if we have a cord with someone, but we are not ready to accept the reality that our energy might be harvested by that person that we, other than that, like, or maybe that we may be harvesting somebody else's energy, then you might actually miss it. And that is why I have created the protocol that I share in my course, because there, for example, we use pendulum dowsing to locate and uncover even chords that we are not able to intuitively locate at this time, which is basically very useful also for people who are not clairvoyant or are just beginning their journey of trusting their intuitive guidance. The biggest issue here is that often we may not realize that the connections and cords we carry may not be serving us, because relationships nowadays are also a little bit vague. Yes, we may feel a little uncomfortable around a person, or we might still have unfinished business with that ex, but there may have been also positive memories or attributes to a relationship, and that kind of gets us confused. We might not even want to let them go yet and stuff like that. But if you find yourself, let's say, overthinking or in mental loops about someone or something, this is 90% of the times a sign of negative energetic enmeshment, and most likely a cord. Maybe this one about overthinking, probably at the crown chakra or the third eye, or on the mental body as a whole. Now, energy cords, they can act as communication pipes, right? They run programs in our consciousness, and they have specific energetic statements. And these can cause misalignment within our vibration and overall being. Imagine you got corded with a person or entity or past version of yourself, and that gives you, let's say, a cord at the solar plexus that runs a program of disempowerment or doubt on your mental body. So this can manifest in your day-to-day as, I don't know, like us not moving forward with our lives, not taking action, falling victim to self-defeating thoughts, no self-esteem, not manifesting our potential, not going for things. Meanwhile, the loads of disempowerment or doubt gets shared between the two people now, thus offering a bit of elevation to the person who held this pattern originally, while the other person is now suddenly finding themselves dealing with a pattern that they did not have before. It was not native to their own system, and thus causes great disruption within the psyche and overall vibration of the persons. Like, suddenly, why do I have all of this self-doubt? And even physical illness can manifest for the person whose energy is siphoned, such as in this case now with the solar plexus cording. We could be dealing with stomach aches, indigestion, anxiety, acid reflux, bacterial overgrowth, you name it. So cords can run beliefs and patterns, thought forms, programs, have emotional states or even illnesses, habits, tastes, dislikes, desires, or even entity attachments and other astral parasites and consciousness limitations, moving back and forth between exchanged, like between the people sharing the cord. And that is why I say that this is usually only benefiting short term the person with the lower vibration. We have to see to it that we reclaim our sovereignty, whether we are the ones doing the siphoning and offloading, which if you are in this course, probably that's not the case. Probably you're the one being siphoned and loaded upon. How do we establish cords that don't serve us? Guilt is a big one. Trauma, shame, fear, manipulation, subjugation, wanting to please or make others proud of us or make them acknowledge us. That can also create cords. Living our lives for others is usually a symptom of cording already present. And look at all of the different ways people relate to one another nowadays, and the dysfunction of relationships, where most times relationships work because one is being extracted from while another benefits. Now, very few individuals approach relationships from the perspective that we are one, and love means to take another as part of ourselves and honor them, therefore treat them with the utmost sanctity. In relationships also, if we are the ones being siphoned, we have to have in some way lost sight of our sovereignty to give permission to another person to cord on us. Or we may have felt bad for someone, that's also another one, and wanted to support them in some way, And unconsciously, we create a cord which gives them some of our power, some of our energy. But when this is done unconsciously, and because we live in cultures that lack attunement to the subtle realms in ways that normally, we would have been allowed to spot cords and disconnect them after the help we wanted to offer was complete, cords tend to stay long past their welcome. We gotta remember to reestablish boundaries, so much energetically and physically and interpersonally, boundaries that keep you, you, and me. And the reason I see cords so often on empaths or spiritual folks is not because we're not evolved or stupid or naive, but because we usually come in with an inherent understanding of oneness consciousness. But in this 3D matrix, this concept gets very distorted and misappropriated and ultimately translated as codependency and loss of individuality. And that sets the stage for all kinds of cording or intrusion. So how can we tell what kinds of cords we have with people in our lives? The positive ones energize us, they don't drain us, you feel safe and seen around this person, there's space, there's freedom, no control or pressure. The energy exchange is natural, not forced, you can be yourself. When you think of that person or place, you get good vibes, or you don't feel anything in particular, just neutral. This is actually a sign that you may not have any cords established yet. Like there's the impression that we have cords with everything by default. I beg to differ. We may have positive or negative cords or no cords at all with a person. We might start a relationship with no cords, like, with a business associate. And 2 meetings later, a cord has now been established, hopefully a good one. Negative cords are, making us drained after interacting with someone or feeling under the gun, or obsessive thoughts or emotions that aren't fully ours, or difficulty moving on from a person or a situation, feeling tied or obligated to someone energetically, even after physical distance or time apart. Like there is a feeling that your heart or your stomach drops when you think of that person, or feeling the need to walk on eggshells. And do know that people pleasing is the number one way empaths invite toxic cords. Like the moment we give permission to make how someone else sees us or how someone else feels about us more important than us showing up in integrity and authenticity, that's when we say yes to cording. So these kinds of cords need to be cut so you can reclaim your energy and sovereignty. When you cut the cords, your own behavior changes, your patterns change, you're free. And also when we cut cords, people may start acting up around us to get us to react or to get us to accept cording again, because they subconsciously feel that the supply they got from us thus far is no more, and they may seek to reestablish the cord. People from your past even might call you out of the blue after a cord cutting. Cord cutting is a practice used to release attachments that are no longer in alignment with our highest good, for those who are not familiar with the term. And this is sacred work because the hidden cost of uncut cords is hysterical to observe if you know about cords. Like I see people being sick and depressed and fatigued, unsuccessful, broke, unable to take their life into their own hands, lack of motivation, scattered, ungrounded, no self-esteem, confusion, dried up creativity or no sexual appetite or drive for life, reduced visibility, anxiety, even identity entanglement can be at play, where a person no longer knows who they are and they start to morph into someone else by giving in to expectations. And this is not just spiritual, as you understand, this is also neurological, as cords attach themselves to energy centers in the aura that correspond to body parts and parts of our nervous system. So a big takeaway from this discussion is that a visualization of cutting cords is not enough. We need to rewire the nervous system on that level with some form of somatic work to release the programming, conditioning, or behavioral mechanism or internalized trauma that creates the resonant container for the cord to be able to click into place. What kind of codependent or people-pleasing or fearful behaviors or patterns do we engage in that facilitate the creation of cords, especially with every challenging person we meet around us? If we don't go about inquiring deeply on that, then the cord is temporarily dislodged, yes, but it will be magnetized eventually back into place just a little later, and especially if the person finds themselves again in physical proximity to the person they cut cords with. Like, I have even seen cords reestablished by receiving a mere email from a person. It has happened to me. So the siphoning starts again, and we wonder why we never get to finally feel like ourselves again, even though we have done cord cutting ceremonies and releasement meditations and everything. The physical body, via the nervous system, is the vessel that broadcasts the consciousness we hold. So we need the somatic healing work as part of our cord cutting process. And that's not something that people do, I have noticed. Now, I also want to talk a little bit about energy hooks. These are a little different from cords, okay? If we think of energy cords as mutual connections between people, and while, some are healthy and supportive and others can become outdated or draining over time, and we clear them when no longer aligned, hooks are different in the sense that they are one-sided, and usually they come from a place of malicious, jealous, or needy intent. They find their way in through manipulation, intimidation, abuse, intentional disempowerment. They look like attempts to latch onto your field, consciously or subconsciously, like to drain, control, or influence you. And I see them more often than not in psychic attacks. And quite frankly, psychic attack does travel through hooks or cords. A lot of things travel through hooks and cords, from illness to entity attachments to trauma that is not even yours, but you're getting it from someone. And this is why we are having this discussion today. This can be so disruptive. Hooks are often felt as sudden anxiety, a feeling like something terrible has happened or you have done something wrong, a feeling of impending doom, heaviness, or tightness, especially where the hook is. And hooks can be confused for psychic attack. So you take measures you normally would against psychic attack, like smudging your aura with white sage, or praying, or salt baths, grounding, shadow work, things to elevate your frequency so the psychic attack cannot click with you. And yet the crappy vibes are still there. So this is likely a hook. And through the hook, psychic attack or just malicious intent can travel and find you. So it doesn't matter how you try to elevate, it also feels quite difficult to elevate. And you may need a couple of days to recover. Hooks, it does go without saying that they require energetic removal and boundary reinforcement and all the healing you can get. It is kind of rare, but hooks can potentially leave lingering pain for some time after their removal. This is fairly rare, but I have seen it, and I recommend visualizing golden light in the area that the hook was on. For example, one time I was being instructed by my spirit team, long after removing etheric hooks from my brain, that sounds kind of weird, to visualize golden light healing my brain from specifically common psychological abuse tactics that I have been exposed to, such as gaslighting and crazy making and stuff like that. And I see hooks 90% of the times on victims of narcissistic abuse, you guys. Like, one of the reasons that psychologically or physically abusive people, narcissists or energy vampires, why they do what they do is because by traumatizing another person and breaking their spirit or chipping away their self-esteem and confidence, they get to install hooks into the field of that person and have endless access to energetic supply. So cords are connections, and while they themselves can feel disruptive enough, Hooks are like energetic intrusions, someone actively trying to latch onto your field to feed off of your energy, influence your emotions, or stay connected through jealousy or anger or control or fear. Hooks are often carrying a sharp, invasive frequency and can feel like sudden emotional heaviness that isn't yours, intrusive thoughts or fear about someone or something, psychic pulls or discomfort in certain energy centers. Like I remember I had one on my left shoulder blade on the backside, and I remember I would periodically feel this strange pulling or even like a vibration at that area. And I thought I had a muscular issue, so I kept ignoring it for 8 whole years until I was visited by Archangel Michael in my dream state. I work actively with the archangelic realms, and so I was informed that this sensation was actually a hook pulling me back to the past. Lo and behold, as we say, upon looking upon it, like it was indeed a hook from someone who was trying for years to pull me back into the past with them. With their actions, with not respecting my decision to go no contact with them after our breakup, and constantly trying to get a reaction from me, from playing the pity game where they would cry about what they did to me and asking my forgiveness, to showing off about how they didn't need me and their life is better without me. I was getting those emails with all of the info that they wanted me to know about their new life without me. So my healing from this relationship was finally completed upon me dislodging that hook. Suddenly, the trauma I had endured at the hands of that person, it was as if it never really had a pull on me ever. And it was just like it was the next logical thing for me to just move on. Like what happened didn't resonate with my truth, sure, but now we just get up and leave and we get better, and it is what it is. I just kind of forgot about them. Like no emotional reaction when they crossed my mind. And I also never heard from them again. Whereas before, it was insane. They would even contact my family members and seek to intrude or get a reaction. Don't know what they are doing now. Textbook narcissists might have found someone else to latch onto for their energy supply, but they're not siphoning me anymore. But all of this talk about hooks and cores and psychic attacks and siphoning, okay? I understand it may clash with some spiritual teachings. I hear you having questions such as, but aren't we supposed to be sovereign beings? And aren't we always protected if we believe that we are protected and if we believe that this is a friendly world? How come things such as cords and hooks could ever override our natural spiritual immunity? And isn't it so that what you focus on multiplies and that we therefore attract what we are? I know my mantra was, and still is, I'm divinely guided and protected through life. And yet, that didn't negate the necessity to learn that my spiritual immunity needed tending to. Same as you get your vitamins and you make sure you eat well and you do a detox every now and then and you take measures to protect yourself from getting sick without judging this world as a cesspit of illness. We are sovereign and we want to learn how to stay a sovereign being amidst a world that is a little crazy sometimes. And so often, because this is a world of polarity, if we decide to see polarity without the judgment that is always attributed to it, we will recognize that more often than not, we may be even attracting the exact opposite of what we are. Alone because this is a place to use our free will and to choose each time anew who and what we want to be. If everything only accommodated goodness, we wouldn't know if we are good, really. There wouldn't be a choice offered, right? And so I used to go around with the eternal sunshine of the child who knows she is held by life. I just knew this world is my oyster and things went my way. Yes, even though I grew up in a house with abuse and control, I chose each day to be the light wherever I went and to be compassionate and to be tolerant and to be optimistic because I really truly felt that there is goodness in this world. until someone saw that little bouncing fairy, and it reminded them of how they wished they had been, how they used to be, maybe, before life had clipped their wings off. And in the same breath, they thought, maybe through her, I can become that once again. And when they realized that simply being in my presence did not bring the desired results, and returning to that former glory required work that they were not inclined to do, the little sunshine fairy became an annoying reminder of what they would not do for themselves. So they picked up an axe and they chopped the wings of the little fairy off. After all, now they would finally be on the same level. So you understand that we all go through things, but who we choose to become after what happens to us is what determines whether we place ourselves in the group of those who follow the impulse to find the light again and heal and acknowledge and process the trauma, and therefore eventually return to a state of receiving organic life force energy directly from their source, and they don't need to siphon other people's energy to get life force energy to fuel their spiritual or physical existence. Or if we have consciously or unconsciously chosen to be in the group of those who do not work to reestablish their true well-being. Those who, as a result, have limited or no access to their source anymore, and they need to use others as supply for life force energy. Try to get their energy through others by manipulating or traumatizing them, because any reaction gives off an energetic or even practical emanation that they can benefit from. Some people choose to create their own wealth or good fame by following their inspired path and take care of their body, of their soul, and cultivate healthy relationships. And some choose to rise by stealing from others and cheat and manipulate and kill to find some kind of elevation. So acknowledging that there are people who choose either the one path or the other does not mean that we see this world as evil. But you can also see that more often than not, people out there don't bother that much with ensuring that they do not become draining or vampiric. Very few people engage in self-awareness and self-reflection, and even fewer do so with the level of honesty that would allow them to course correct if they would have found themselves to be engaging in behaviors that encourage energetic parasitism. So it is a tough call to acknowledge ourselves as the little parasite that is draining, because our default reaction to that possibility would be judgment. That's what we learn. And so we avoid even acknowledging that, maybe we are the ones in need of healing, as if that would mean that we are broken. And we think this way because society makes us think this way. And society for the past centuries also has seemed to reward even and encourage energetic parasitism and the disregard of one's sovereignty, so much so that psychic shielding and energetic protection and education around that doesn't mean that we are negatively focused. Same as it doesn't mean that you are a negative or scared person just because you will not open the door to your apartment to just anybody who knocks. Energetic supply on some level is always the reason why cords or hooks get created. And by all means, we could have cords because we went through something with someone where we felt scared and we sought to receive strength from another person. Or what I see often is patients, they cord to their doctors or their healers. If you're a service provider, you could have people unconsciously cording to you because they see you as guidance, they see the strength in you, they feel you will take care of them, and you could be taking that on unconsciously and in your willingness to serve. And for a while, that may be actually helpful to them and okay for you because you may have more energy in your battery at that time than they do, and you could maybe afford it for a while. But after a while, you may find your physical body manifesting, like somatizing something to pull your attention to that part needing to have a cord severed because it has now in the meantime become an energetic exchange no longer supporting the benefit of both. The same goes for mental and emotional manifestations, right? So there is always one side that looks to get and one side that has more to offer, or chooses to acquiesce or give permission for an attachment to take place. The problem is, as I said, that the empty battery will be draining the fuller battery. And a bit ominously also, you could have other people's issues or timelines leaking into your experience and even shaping karmic imprints that you were never meant to be the one to work those imprints out. So we could be taking on the soul work of other people and carrying it out for them, or at least have that strongly color or taint our own experience. This can even show up on children whose parents poured all of their unlived ambitions onto them, and the child now thinks they want those things for themselves. They think this is their true identity. But they are playing out the identity that their parents did not get to embody themselves. And that is not cute or something to be proud of, because everyone is meant to have their own path according to their free will, not according to projection or manipulation or coercion. Now, it is interesting that with people who are serial manipulators or severely lack self-awareness and avoid accountability at all costs, they can even engage in karma dumping. I have also seen that malicious people, and I mean really like the narcissistic CEO who gets their way by stepping on corpses literally and figuratively, if you cord to them, let's say because you are their spouses or their employee, you are not just corded to them. So these people, they do tend to be corded to entities or even ancestral networks, where entities are using them to act in certain ways that cause trauma to others and victimization. So the reaction to that will create an energetic emanation that is feeding through the person back to the entities. And that is why often when we look, let's say, I don't know, like political figures, I discourage sending energy, good or bad, to them. Not even to, let's say, I don't know, help them make the right choices for the collective or whatever, because they have already around them a grid that is parasitic. Any energy you send is going to be sucked. But because the person is running the agendas that benefit that parasitic system, this also kind of offers them an energetic protection. Which also answers a question I often get, like why nothing bad happens to, I don't know, like political figures that nobody likes, that everybody hates. Bad things happen to those who don't have an energetic system protecting them. For example, celebrities, they get unstable and unhinged. But the CEOs of the record labels controlling them, they only get richer. So most of these individuals that are in such leadership positions, they work with reversal grids. And they bind the energy and use it. In fact, systems use particular people for certain positions because the person is holding prominently stark, polarizing energy to ensure that people will have en masse a reaction to that figure. But all in all, I'm trying to say, there are all sorts of different ways that different entities or people have found ways to access life force energy when they cannot access it from their own organic connection to source, due to their trauma or shadow material within themselves or programming or conditioning, you name it. So one last thing about manipulative people before we move on, because 90% of people look to cut cords with people who did them dirty. We may be shown a wonderful facade at first. So of course we gave permission to cord with that person that made us feel so good at first, only to find ourselves lured into energetic siphoning when the masks fall and we see the true face of the person. This is one of the reasons why it is so hard sometimes for people to heal and let go of narcissistic abuse or intentional chronic manipulation, because we willingly opened up and corded with someone who made us feel safe at first, only to lure us into being energetically extracted from. And how bad we feel when this is done is proof that this is not how things are supposed to be. And we want to create opportunities for correction and clearing. So exactly because our energy field is sacred and we live in a world of constant energetic exchange that doesn't always stem from integrity, it's vital to have a clear boundary that holds our sovereignty. So let us talk from that space of wanting to be informed and not from fear. Let's talk about how we can protect our field from unwanted hooks and cords and psychic interference, intimidation, entity attachments, or anything of that kind. So the most effective technique that I have found through my years is the 12D shield. This is an energetic protection and alignment technique that I see presented in different ways from different practitioners, but I have personally found myself to resonate most with the version taught by Lisa Renee. And there is a video on YouTube with Lisa's guided visualization meditation. You can find the link below this video. So this is a crystalline light technology, and it works by anchoring a pillar of 12th dimensional frequency around your field. Now, 12th dimensional frequency is the level of divine unity consciousness. When activated regularly, this shield, it helps neutralize distortion, dissolve foreign energies, and prevent things from energetically latching onto you, like consciously or unconsciously. Think of it as your multidimensional light armor. It is, in my experience, not only a strong protection field, but it can also serve as a calibration space. What do I mean? It allows your energy to stabilize and self-source and operate from your original divine blueprint. So it helps us remember our divine architecture, energetically speaking. Before you interact with the world out there, with people or even media and news, put on your 12D shield. Which brings me to the next thing I wanted to talk to you about. We don't only court with people, but also places, collective grids, ideas, celebrities, and celebrities often have connected to them big energetic entities called egregores that are thought forms focused by many people at once. This is like why it's so hard for people to live in the public eye with all that scrutiny, like all of those eyes on them. But we could also be courted to thought forms, which are basically entities that get created when we engage repeatedly in the same thought patterns. Like they kind of become a thing of their own and they live from the energy supply that we give to them. So it serves them to influence us back into preserving them and upholding them with our own consciousness. So overthinking, looping, this is usually the case. We could be courted to cultural scripts such as success, beauty, wealth, fame, validation. Now, these are things that are not inherently negative, but how we define those and the rigidity with which we go about gaining those things at all costs, this can become a consciousness trap. And we could, in the same sense, even be courted to energetic overlays from spiritual communities. And so that brings me to my next segment regarding why most cord cutting methods don't work. So the problem I see with surface level techniques is they only stay on doing a visualization and you're fine. The majority of people do cord cutting only to have the same cords reestablished a couple of months later, because the energetic imprinting that allowed the cording in the first place has not been cleared from the consciousness, has not been neutralized or integrated, and it remains therefore in the nervous system, in the crystalline cellular memory, as an open invitation either for past cording to return or for new cording with the same energetic statement to attach. And I had to deal with this myself back in 2018, 2019, when the kinds of cordings that I had on me were so severe. I was just coming out of the music industry, and I manifested Crohn's disease on my body. And I had to find a way to stop the energy leakage that was taking place, especially if we have experienced intense trauma at the hands of fellow humans. This can be a reality we're called to deal with. So if that's you, no fear. Okay, but I was shocked back then to find like the same chords back in place all the time. And I started going deep and asking my higher self and my spirit team, like, what do I do? And I was given a particular step-by-step protocol that also kept expanding the more we were putting it to use. And what do you know? Depression went away. My energy started flowing again. Also, energy started flowing again in the areas of finances, where before, I lost my job, nothing was moving, opportunities were backfiring, and more outrageously, also an incurable illness that is Crohn's disease just disappeared. Which proved to me also that energy cords and hooks, they are not only felt on a psychological or energetic spiritual level, but they can be felt even on our physical health. And so it wasn't long before I stopped doing cord cuttings for other people. And instead, I started giving them the exact steps to do this practice themselves effectively. And I know it is not considered good for business when you empower people to do their own healing work and they don't need you anymore. But in my experience, and I have to say this, you guys, when you act from integrity, life will carry you. And I cannot say life hasn't carried me more than well through the years. So I stand by it. So I'm happy to be sharing today here the exact steps, what exactly we can be doing to utilize cord cutting powerfully and effectively long term, so cords cannot be reestablished. And both sides also can finally have the opportunity to plug into their own source of life force energy instead of seeking to create cords to get their energy from somewhere or someone else. So people usually do a meditation and they visualize themselves and the person they want to cut cords with, and they see what their consciousness is showing them, and they visualize scissors cutting these cords, and then maybe even wrap themselves in white light, and that's it. And a lot of people are trashing the scissors. I don't have a problem with the scissors. Scissors are great, but just the scissors, yeah, you can have cords return. Another thing people do is like they use crystals to pass over your aura and you trust that all cords that don't serve you have been severed. This, in my view, is not even a way to know you have achieved anything unless you're clairvoyant and you can actually see or feel your field, okay? And it still doesn't guard from cords reattaching. Now, don't get me wrong, these are lovely techniques to use from time to time to help you feel into your energy, to freshen up your energy, but this is not cord cutting. So what actually works? So first of all, we want to locate what cords we have, where, with whom. So take a piece of paper and write down the names of the people that when you think of them, you immediately get a response in your body or generally that is not nice. It could be a visceral reaction like anxiety, or you feel your heart or your stomach sink or whatever. Or a person where even thinking of them, your mind goes to all the ways you feel something is off or unfinished between you. You will know. Just write those names down. No matter how many they are, write them all down. Do this now also if you like. Pause this and write them. Take your time. You could end up adding to that list as you go. I have a list currently. It is 2 pages long. I'm doing a real overhaul currently. But my first one I ever did was 10 pages long. 10 or even 12 if I'm not mistaken. That's all right. Write them all down. So this step is important because it brings consciousness towards all our relationships and connections that we maintain. What kind of relationships are we maintaining, and how many of those actually are supportive and feel supportive to us, and which ones we are basically just tolerating because of some other reason, or we are straight up over with those. And of course, I have a whole segment where I teach in my course exactly how to discern and find which person you indeed have attachments with, and which one is best that you start working on cutting cords with at each particular moment. Why? Because sometimes it might not be the right time for clearing work to be done. Soul contracts may still be in progress. You may be going through enough upheaval or restructuring currently as it is. You may be tired, sick, or ungrounded, anything. So we want to know whom it is more readily available to us to cut cords with, because we go deep in this process and we do basically timeline reclamation. That's no simple work. So you guys, I remember at some point I was corded to a friend from the past where our paths separated because this person, unfortunately, they fell victim to feelings of jealousy towards me, even though I always felt she was great and beautiful. And I never imagined she would feel jealous of anyone. And so we parted after she actively tried to derail certain professional opportunities I had worked for years to secure. And she managed to depose me and to step into my place as well. So there was this energy of jealousy, but also this, I wanna have what you have. I am coming for what you have, this kind of energy. And as the years went by, I didn't know what she was up to anymore. And I was shown by my spirit team at some point, you need to look into what she is up to. Like find out, go to her social media, I don't know. And indeed I saw that basically in a perfect chronology where certain things fell apart in my life, the very same things showed up blossoming in her life. So back then I really didn't think about it in a serious way. I thought, well, like sometimes this is how life works, like there's a timing for everything and for everyone. And I didn't think further on that. I just went ahead and I did a cord cutting as I was instructed. And there were many cords. And this person also had placed so many hooks on every single one of my energy centers. So I cleared them thinking, wow, that's some serious cording, maybe because we used to be so close. So it would be years later when I wasn't even thinking about that person anymore, that I heard it, through the grapevine, as we say, basically, that this old friend's life had been a mess since a number of years, which coincided with the time around just after my cord cutting. And everything had broken down and she lost everything and nothing worked and she had to move away and size down and pivot to another career, but that was also not working. So she landed in unemployment. And because during the years that we were courted, I had been on unemployment, I did not judge that. But I started to understand why my spirit team had asked me to look at her path. And it dawned to me that since I cut cords with her, suddenly things in my life had blossomed. The things that were not working for me, but were working with the exact precision for that old friend, they had returned in my life. So you guessed it right, often it is not just our energy that is siphoned, but our very timelines can get swapped. So doing cord cutting can help us reclaim our organic timeline and return back to the rightful owner any timelines that may be bleeding into our own experience. And I was told by my spirit team that the reason my old friend's life fell apart after I cut cords was not a punishment, but it was simply the energy that was mine, that she had been siphoning from me, was no longer there to fuel her timeline with elements that actually belonged in my timeline. So her timeline was readjusted and elements that were supposed to be part of my timeline were taken away, so that she be redirected to her organic timeline, if she's open to that. And also things exited my timeline and were returned to her, and things were returned to me, as I said. So we help both sides walk on what their organic path would have been. And yes, there is a timing to do this work with each person written down on your list. That ensures an optimal readjustment taking place. It is interesting that friend of mine loved small dogs, and I was always a big dog person. And during those years of our courting, I developed such a craving to have a small dog. I mean, I was obsessed suddenly with small dogs. And good that life did not accommodate that for me, because after the cord cutting, I could no longer find any part in me that would want to have a small dog, like a chihuahua or something. So even things we think we desire or see for ourselves, this could all be changing to what we originally resonated with before energetic hijacking was established. So after we figure out who it is the time to cut cords with, we want to identify whether these are cords or hooks, where they are located exactly in our field, and what kind, very important, of energetic statement they contribute to our field. Remember I said that cordings can transfer beliefs, emotions, thought, patterns, programs. They bring all that energetic information directly into the chakra or body area that they are latched onto. And here it is where it gets juicy, so I want you to pay attention, because this is what establishes conscious awareness that makes this work so effective, so as to not have cords return again out of being unaware of the patterns we potentially still hold on to. So I have found that generally attachments found on the front of the body are usually where people take energy from us, or we have agreed to give them energy. Like, it's the front is like where we make exchanges. For example, someone sees your confidence in a time where they feel they lack confidence. It attracts their attention. Maybe they covet it. So you may find they have latched a cord on your solar plexus, usually, if it's confidence. And this is contributing, let's say, the energetic statement of self-doubt that they have. Now, this was their self-doubt to begin with, that they sought to exchange for your confidence. But now you are the one feeling the self-doubt, and they get confidence circulating into their system through the cording with you. So people often speak of destiny or identity swapping, and they take it into epic proportions and witchcraft and curses and hexes. I like to introduce the idea that cord cutting can work wonders to bring back divine order also on that field. So a cord like that could make one feel insecurity, not being enough or not being safe in who you are, fearfulness, especially fear of judgment or failure, or fear of being seen, holding back, like shrinking, staying small, low self-esteem, your sense of value feeling diminished or externally defined, or even self-rejection, like denying your own gifts or truths or essence. Meanwhile, the other person seems to have found their second wind and their self-belief has skyrocketed, while you wonder where yours has gone. Again, here I want to remind us of our own personal power. The reason why the cord was allowed to latch is because most often we sense that we hold something someone else is in need of. And unconsciously even feeling bad about that other person, or simply unconsciously noticing their struggle and going, oh, I wish I could help. Well, guess what? You are now helping them by giving them your essence. So seriously, empathy can be something that hijacks self-authority. Not because empathy in itself is a problem. The problem is the programming we marinate in since birth that glorifies sacrifice and holds as noble the undermining of our sovereignty. And through interpersonal trauma, we'll learn that love means to give up parts of ourselves. So cord cutting needs us also to examine whether we don't believe that we can have others and ourselves intact. Most of us learn from birth that belonging means to give up the divine self, a sacrifice on the altar of people pleasing. Hello, cording, that can siphon us to oblivion. So you understand, we have the power. We just have to remember to wield it and not exchange it for an illusion of belonging. Also, healers, we want to be of service. Yes, we don't want to be servants. So this is all about the front of the body, okay? That's where energy is exchanged, usually. They take something they saw in us and we pick up the slack they leave on us. Again, remember, we gave permission for this to happen, usually because we unconsciously thought we were helping or because we have been taught to, by default, sacrifice our own well-being for others, as if there is not enough well-being for everyone to go around. But if you walk in a room and scan to see what others need so that you can people please, you have to stop. You are by default giving yourself up. And one day, there may be nothing left to give up. The cool thing is that when you take your energy back, the others will be okay. Because by not enabling their parasitism anymore, you are offering an opportunity for the other person to either grow and find ways to reconnect to their source, or if they choose unconsciousness, yes, they will just go find someone else who is willing or programmed to accommodate them and be their supply. But again, this is not your business. This might be the other person's lesson. Same as it was yours. Your path is to liberate yourself. That will set a precedent that is now in the ethers, and others can choose to do that more easily because a precedent has been set now and the consciousness pathways have been laid. Okay? So cording found on the back side of the body or etheric field, these are more like attacks, offensive intrusions directed at us, negative thought form, or hooks that seek to punish, attack, or insert a frequency into our field that is not organic. Imagine a cord at the back of the head with the energetic statement of, stupidity. Depending how low or high on the head this cord is, this could fall under the third eye or the crown or the alta major chakra at the base of the skull. We want to uncover the exact position, but let's take this example of the energetic statement of stupidity, okay? This is often the case when someone thinks aggressively about another, you are stupid. So the person directs, I want you to know that I think you are stupid. I want you to know you are stupid. And these are usually things projected with such vindictiveness or anger or intensity. These are intense emotional states and statements, so much so that it comes in sharp. And if we have no proper shielding in place, that's why the 12D shield is so important, then the intrusive consciousness has nothing to keep it out. Guess what? The person picks this up because now it is in their field and they start to think that they are stupid. They may doubt their smartness, they may question their decisions or feel confused and unable to make a decision with confidence. They may not see the options available to them. They may have analysis paralysis without coming to a solution because after all, they are stupid, right? They can't act or think smart. Their very decisions may start to suffer. Even worse, other people around them may start picking up this signature because it is in the person's field. And now other people may also start thinking, this person might be stupid. And so the projection grows and it can invite additional attachments as well. See how important becoming consciously aware it is to doing this work effectively. Because the next step after we have identified all there was to identify, and after the energetic release through the cord cutting, which, you can use a visualization with scissors, but then we're going into repatterning the energetic field via the nervous system. The method I introduce here is emotional freedom technique, a healing modality that combines light tapping on specific acupressure points with intentional statements. Now, what this does is it helps, first of all, calm the nervous system and reprogram subconscious beliefs that had us engaging in patterns that allowed for the cording in the first place. This means that in the future, not only through using the 12D shield are you able to withstand attempts of people trying to cord to you, but also we will have recoded the emotional patterns that used to be stored into your body and mind that were tied to the old connections of, guilt, fear, or attachment. So this way, we are also restoring a felt sense of safety and sovereignty. We embody that. It's how we tell the body we're free now. Because EFT doesn't just clear, it also anchors the shift into your energy field, emotions, and physical body. So meridian tapping, EFT. So finally, to wrap this up, because I understand this has been a long webinar, but I've had so much fun and I wanted to give you as much information as possible. And if you're here, I want to thank you that you stuck around. I wanted to give you so much info so you can work with this at your own pace. But also, if this offering feels like something that resonates with where you are at in your journey, as I said at the very beginning, I created this small course and I am sharing my personal protocols to uncover the exact signatures and placements and energetic statements of the cordings, so you understand what you have been dealing with in your day-to-day life. I give you charts of emotional statements and guide you through methods to muscle test and pendulum dowse on the exact issues with who, what, how it manifests in your day-to-day, and therefore what parts of us are we supporting by clearing those attachments, and whole meridian tapping scripts for emotional processing and rewiring of the nervous system so these cords do not return and others like them cannot find resonant ground to land. Because just doing the visualization, as I said, will not make the energy dissipate and will certainly not correct the core behavioral patterns we discussed, such as lacking personal authority, that puts us in the front row for receiving and accepting cording or hooks or attachments or attacks of all kinds. So if this resonates, I will be happy to see you in the course. You will find all of the information about the course and how to enroll and the curriculum and everything. You will find that below this video here, and we will be going deep to help you gain an appropriate understanding as to the energy centers within our field also. Like, many may be familiar with the concept of chakras, energy centers throughout the body and the aura. We usually accept that we have 7 main chakras, but I have found through this work that we have way more than that. I give you all of this information and all of the tools in the course, even if you have zero experience with intuitive work before. So if this talk today here lit up something for you, the course is where we go deep into the how exactly. So thank you so much for having been here, for showing up for yourself, and for having learned so much, and for walking this path with so much courage and heart. Remember, your energy is sacred, your truth is sovereign, your light is needed. May you move forward clear, grounded, and deeply connected to the divine intelligence within you. And until we meet again, stay in your power and stay in your light. I love you all. Goodbye for now.